1
There
minute.
it is.
All right, you guys are good to go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome. Happy Friday, and welcome to Fresh Tech Fridays. Today is Friday, June 18th, 2021. I'm pleased to announce I have a very special guest today, my friend and colleague, Buck Wright, who is Dell Technologies Data Center Channel Manager for Southern California. Good afternoon, Buck. How you doing?
Tom, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the cast. How you
Love
doing?
it. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Got big plans for this weekend. Sounds like it's going to be a hot one. It's Father's Day. I hear it's also your anniversary, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, quick shout out to my wife, Brittany. Her and I are gonna have been married for 7 years this coming Monday, and we're celebrating it on Saturday.
Gotcha. Congratulations. And then rolling right into Father's Day after that. Couldn't be
Yeah, the
better.
1-2 punch.
Yeah, that's right. So hey, data center channel manager at Dell Technologies. Tell me a little bit about what that job is, and also if we can back up a little bit, how did you end up doing this job in this geographic market? How'd you come to be there?
Yeah, great question, Tom, because I definitely did not start my career saying, hey, this is exactly what I want
What
to
I
go
want to
do,
do?
right? Everything happens for a reason, and all roads lead to Rome sometimes. So I was working for EMC, and that's where I originally kind of made my breakthrough into the tech industry. Was a core rep, so I was selling all the storage solutions to pretty much every medium business in San Diego. So I was like the San Diego territory manager, all the smaller accounts. And when I have a couple mentors in the business, right? And I was working for one, Mike Carroll at the time, and EMC got bought by Dell, right? Big acquisition, and EMC had always covered the channel differently. EMC in commercial, we did 100% of our business through the channel. There was no other way. That was the go-to-market strategy. Dell was a little different, right? There was depending on the product and the line of business. And Dell, each company covered partners differently and covered the channel and supported the channel differently. So EMC, you had a channel resource that was mapped to the area vice president and managed the area vice president's channel business regardless of the partner. And then at Dell, you had channel managers assigned to the partner, not to the geographic territory, and covered the partner nationally, no matter where they transacted with Dell. And so when the two companies came together, the EMC team at the time was saying, hey, we want to keep our channel resources, but we need a little bit more support because we want to make sure the channel is so important to us and we don't want to lose it. We want to make sure that we maintain our relationship. So Mike Carroll at the time was my district manager that I was reporting to, and he goes, Buck, you know what? I think you'd be great at this. I'd love to have you run my channel for Southern California. And at the time, it was just the storage business. And I was like, you know what? He's like, Buck, you'd be great at it, and I think you'd have a lot of fun. I was like, Mike, if you think it'll be fun, then I know it's going to be fun. And I was like, signed up right away. And then a couple different evolutions, but now the job, I'm supporting all commercial public sector business in Southern California channel. And then it's not just storage anymore. So it's the entire data center under Dell Technologies. So you have storage, compute, and VMware as well.
Gotcha. Got your hands full. And how about prior to EMC? Tell us a little bit about what did you study and what did you originally do? Like, how'd you end up at EMC Corporation?
Yeah, great question. So I was I cut my teeth in sales with the San Diego Padres. So I grew up being I love baseball. I played baseball in college. Like if I could rewrite my history, right?
Hold on. Now, what position did you play? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was an outfielder. I was an outfielder.
Awesome.
Threw right, hit left, and tried to be a catcher. I got to the college and they're like, Buck, we love your bat. We cannot stand you behind the plate. You're a casualty. We got to put you in the outfield.
Nice. But you
Yeah.
had a good bat, huh? Who knew, man? That's
Yeah.
cool.
Right. So I was a huge baseball guy when I couldn't play in the pros. I ended up figuring out a different way. I was in grad school at San Diego State, and they had an internship to go work for the San Diego Padres. And with my background, they said, "Hey, Buck, you're the right guy to go do this." And I built a marketing project for the San Diego Padres on how to go ahead and get more college attendance to their baseball games. Kind of led into a job and whatnot, and making 100 phone calls a day, inside sales job, right? I'm the guy that called people at dinner time saying, hey, I heard you went to a Padres game. I'd love to have you back down to the ballpark, right? That was me. So it was a lot of fun. Definitely overcame my fear of talking to strangers on the phone through that process, right? And then through that, so I got to meet a whole bunch of, so it transitioned from calling single game buyers to calling corporations and businesses about corporate packages. And during that part of my career, I started talking to a lot of different CEOs in San Diego and got to know different companies. And I really identified with a company that was called Clear Edge Power, and Clear Edge Power created fuel cells. And fuel cells are an alternative energy generation system that takes natural gas and electrochemically converts it to heat and electricity, and it does it in a very efficient manner. So traditional power that we consume from the house is 30% efficient, right? So based upon the natural resources we use and the actual power that we're gaining from it, we're really only getting about 30% efficiency. Well, fuel cells, because the power is created on site where it's being consumed, it's 90% plus efficiency. So I was like, this is, just being a sustainable person. I'm a surfer. Like, I like that whole mindset of like, how do we go ahead and live in this planet for a very long time and do so the right way? And so this company was starting up, and they said, Buck, like, we got to know you through the Padres sales, but you'd be great at running some of our strategic accounts on the West. And I think there was only about 8 salespeople in the company when I jumped on board, and I did that. I loved it. I had a great time. Unfortunately, it was, the company didn't take off to the degree that we wanted to. We went through a little bit of a bankruptcy, and I was talking to some mentors and some people that I trust, and they're like, Buck, if you love the idea of making a difference in the world and progress and helping human progress, like, there's no better industry than the tech industry. And what tech's doing, right? The way that it's changing people's lives, you got to look into that. And I talked to a bunch of different companies at the time, VMware, VCE, probably about 7 different tech companies, and ended up talking to some people at EMC and was like, you know what, this is the spot that I want to go into. So they put me through the ringer. It was probably about 6 months, 7 months interview process. But to this day, I'm very thankful that some people took a chance on me.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. And so now you fast forward to today, now you're covering, I can't even imagine how many millions of dollars in business is flowing through the channel in the area that you're covering. What do you like best about what you're doing now? Like, I mean, you sound to me like somebody that's got to be inspired by the work that you're doing. Tell me, what's inspiring about what you're doing now? What do you like best?
Tom, thanks for asking. So what I like best is absolutely working with the people. Like, the Southern California IT market is different than any other IT market across America. There is such there's so much innovation in Southern California, and there's so much entrepreneurship, right? So people such as yourself, like that, are able to go ahead and start up. So I work with the resellers here, and the people that I get to meet, and the ideas that they have, and the problems that they solve, and the relationships that they develop with customers has just been the best, right? Like, I just love kind of meeting people that I admire and are doing it the right way. And a lot of people, it's not just in Southern California, the people that I work with, it's not just about, yes, they're going to have great careers and they're starting companies because they believe that they can do it the right way and change the game. But at the same time, they're doing it because, they want to do it their way, where they're also spending time with their family, and they care about, that work-life balance. And I just meet some great people, and I feel like I'm making a positive impact and helping them, sell more Dell technologies, do it in a way that's allowing them to invest back in their businesses, continuing to evolve their businesses, where they end up supporting our customers in a better fashion, and evolve and ultimately deliver a great outcome to end users and people that work with their customers. So I absolutely do love it. I absolutely do.
Yeah, it's kind of it's obviously a exciting time to be in tech, because we're one of the industries that's not getting hit as hard as some others. So obviously, you and I could own a restaurant together right now, and it would be really tough. Although restaurants are back. Have you eaten at a restaurant yet?
I have, yeah.
Love
Outdoors,
it. Love it.
a lot of outdoor restaurants, but Yeah, actually had my first like official business meeting at a restaurant on was it on Wednesday. So I think the 15th was Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I already had a lunch meeting, which was it felt great. It really did.
I love it. Yeah, did you was the restaurant important to you, or was it really just the meeting and the restaurant was convenient? Because I know for me, I had a few meetings. Some of them were about, it was like hard. I was almost competing. Like, am I more excited about eating at this restaurant that I haven't been able to eat at, or more excited about meeting another human being, and getting
You
to spend
you
some
read
time with
my
them?
mind. So we
So,
picked
yeah.
we picked Swami's restaurant, and
Okay.
Swami's is it's a great surf spot in San Diego, and they have a restaurant adjacent to it. It's one of my favorite restaurants, breakfast spots. They also do lunch. And yeah, the restaurant was up there. The meeting was good. The restaurant
Yeah,
was good. It was a win-win all around.
that's awesome. Yeah, I was like accidentally, but my daughter was graduating from college, and I ended up being in New York on the day that they opened, which was, I don't know, it was a little while ago. It was like at the end of May. And then, of course, I was here on the 15th when we reopened here. So it was like the only thing more awesome than experiencing a reopening is getting to experience it twice, right?
Awesome. So yeah, and I heard you mention that having a daughter. So happy Father's Day, upcoming
Oh,
happy
thank
Father's
you.
Day to you too.
Yeah, thanks, man. So far, so good. She's in one piece. She finished undergrad, so I think she's employed. So, pretty
Awesome. Is
happy
she gonna
about
stay
that.
in New York, or is she making her way back to the West Coast?
Yeah, no, thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, Manhattan apartments are at half price. So she still has the smallest apartment I've ever seen. It's with two of her friends, but she's like living in Soho, working an entry-level job. So she's over the moon. I think she wants to stay for like 2 more years, and then she'll figure out what she's gonna do next. So
I've heard it's the best city in the world. So
I love it there. I was reading your bio. Are you from New York State at least, or
yeah, I was
where are you
born.
from?
I was born in New York. So I never lived in the city. I moved out when I was 5.
Okay,
I was born in Mount Kisco Hospital in New York. So
gotcha.
the first, speaking of baseball, to circle back on that, I was the very first baseball game my parents said I ever went to was a New York Mets game. So I'm not
Oh,
a New
okay.
York Mets fan. I'm a Padres
Cool.
fan now.
Yeah.
But the very first game I ever went to was a New York Mets game, so I always have a soft spot in my heart for New York in general, and New York baseball.
Yeah. Well, and being being a Mets fan is that's a tough road. I grew up an Oakland A's fan, and they were good when I was a little kid. So I got super inspired, and then I moved to SoCal, where the A's are not popular, obviously, and continuing to be an A's fan was a lot of work. You know what I mean? Because like none of my friends liked them, and if I wanted to see them, I had to drive to Orange County, and they were just so bad. And finally, when they threatened to move to Fremont, for anybody that knows Bay Area geography, this would be like the Dodgers threatening to move to Palmdale. It was just unacceptable. And I bought season tickets to the Dodgers, who then were
So
also terrible. And now, of course, they're world champions. So congratulations, Dodgers.
yeah,
But your
yeah.
team, the
So I got to tell you
Padres,
though, I know exactly what you're talking about with the A's though. So I grew up. A's are my favorite baseball team.
oh, I didn't
I
know
grew
that.
up
Okay.
growing up in the Bay Area. So when I left New York, my parents moved to Northern California with me and my brother. And yeah, I became a huge A's fan because the A's had dollar hot dogs on Wednesday nights.
Yep.
And I was a fan right around the times that like Mulder, Zito, and Hudson
Yeah.
were pitching for the A's, and the A's had a
Mhm.
promo with Pepsi that
Yep.
if the A's struck out 7 opposing batters in a game, you got a free Pepsi 2 liter.
Right.
And like if one of those guys was pitching, you were pretty much guaranteed. So not
Yeah.
only did you get dollar hot dogs, you got free 2 liters. You could get a stack of them. We'd come back home. I remember taking my brothers when I first got a car, and we'd come back home and we'd have 15 2 liter soda bottles we're putting in the pantry. My mom's
Yeah.
like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like,
Yeah.
"Mom, they're free."
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I can't remember. There was a promotion. So I'm a little younger than you. So when I was going, I was young. My father's from Berkeley, his father's from Berkeley. My uncle went to Berkeley. There's a lot of Berkeley. So even though I lived in Palo Alto, there's a lot of Berkeley in my family history.
Yeah,
So there was no Giants. That was the team, right?
yeah.
So my uncle and my father both used to take me, but it was back then there was some kind of promotion where if you had an empty Coke can, you could sit in the bleachers for, I mean, I wasn't paying for the tickets. I was a kid, but it was like single figures, right? Like 5, 6, 7, $8 or something. And so that's how, and I just remember this was during like the Ricky Henderson era. So we could barely see the game, but whenever Ricky Henderson was on one of the bases, it was like so exciting, you know? And then
Oh,
I took my daughter during the whole like Harden, Heron, Zito, Mulder, you know, Chavez, that whole squad that was really, really good. And a bunch of them ended up, I guess, in, you know, Bunny Ball, et cetera, et cetera. But then, yeah, bought Dodger season tickets. They had, I think, one of their worst runs ever. And then now finally they're, but to circling back on the Padres, seems like they've got a chance to be world champs pretty soon. They look amazing.
amazing. I'm loving it. And the best part about I still have a ton of friends that work in the organization,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so happy for them. I'm seeing, the team progress. And I mean, so when you work in the front office, even if you're, sales, if you're VP of sales for the Padres or even an inside sales rep, like I
Mm-hmm.
was, you get a ring when they win.
No way. I
So,
didn't know
oh
that.
yeah. Yeah. So
So
there
you've
is
got some friends that are hoping for a ring, huh?
yeah, there's skin in the game. Everybody's excited. Like you're watching the games, you're watching the television. When the team starts doing well, not only is it easier to sell tickets, but I mean, walking around with a ring, there's nothing better. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for my friends, still doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got everybody but the Giants is represented on the DZ sales staff. So we've got my boy Kevin is a huge diehard Padres fan. Alex is a big Anaheim fan. Of course, I'm a big Dodger fan, and so pretty much no matter what's happening in baseball, as long as one of those teams is good, we all get pretty excited. This year will be fun because, of
Yeah.
course, I think at the end, when we get to the end, it's going to be for the division. It's going to be Padres versus Dodgers, probably. I mean, it's
That
looking that way.
yeah, that's great too to have the diversity within your organization because that
Yeah.
way you guys can relate to your customers no matter
That's right.
which team they're a fan of, right?
That's
You
right.
decide the executive sponsor based upon
Yeah.
baseball.
That's right. We've assigned you the following sales resource based on your building a common point of agreement with favorite baseball team. Yeah. So, hey, get back to the work thing a little bit. So it sounds like you love what you're doing. I love that you had kind of an unusual path to get there. I could totally identify with that. Same. I accidentally ended up doing this, and I'm so glad that I did because I never would have thought of it, and I couldn't have thought of anything that would be better than what I'm doing now, if that makes sense. Like I accidentally ended up doing something that was more awesome than anything I could have dreamed up.
My dad has a saying for this. Good things happen to good people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's out of your control, but if you just do things right, you treat people right, good things happen, you find yourself in good situations. So
Yeah.
so I'll
Absolutely.
chalk your path up to that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, man. So tell me, obviously there was an enormous acquisition to your point. Dell takes over, your role evolves, you're getting your sea legs, things are going pretty well, and then the whole world shuts down. And the company you work for in particular was like, hey, no travel, no in-person meetings, which I know for you, connecting with people is a very important part of your job. Tell me a little bit about how did that, affect you personally? Like, what was that like, and how did it affect the way in which you do your job? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So from a personal standpoint, wow, like I was doing probably about 50, 60, 70 nights a year in a hotel, even though just because we're in Southern California. I'm out of San Diego. I was at the time living in a southern part of San Diego where, going up to LA or Orange County, I just kill myself on the road. So I was doing, trips up the coast first half of the week, down the coast second half of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was staying in a lot of hotels. And then COVID hits and I'm not. And it was great. I had a 1-year-old son at the time. So getting to be around the house, even if it's just seeing them popping my head in at lunch or whatnot, and what have you. I thought that was great. But wow, like from a work standpoint, I think it was extremely tough at first. It really was because the good news is I had been doing my job and I'd been in market, so I'd built relationships, right? Because I think the hardest thing about what happened when we all went virtual is yes, like we have the tools to continue to maintain relationships, but it is really hard to go ahead and create a new relationship without being able to really sit down with somebody.
I
And
agree.
and so yeah, that part of the job was tough, right? But from a business standpoint and the market, like, I'm a big, obviously, proponent of the channel, and I think the channel became even more important through COVID. And the reason for that is because COVID accelerated what was happening and what we were seeing in the IT industry, where there's been a shift, and it's been going on for a while, but it keeps evolving. And that shift is from looking at buying individual products to buying and really sourcing business outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And COVID just accelerated the need to be agile and to focus on business outcomes. And Dell Technologies, we make great infrastructure. Our infrastructure is more automated and simple to use and more efficient than, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, than any other manufacturer out there. But what does not happen is you do not buy a Dell Technology solution, drop it in a customer data center, and it changed their entire life when that happens. It's really about taking that infrastructure solution and automating all the way from the infrastructure up through the application, up through the end user experience. And that's what partners like DZ Solutions do. And so the value of the channel and channel partners to our business became accelerated. And that was a great thing for my role and for us and for the company, and just for, what I believe and what I'm passionate about, on a day-to-day basis. So there's definitely some good, there's some things that, I wish didn't happen, but at the same time, like, I think all in all, it was a real blessing. And I'm, couldn't be happier that now we're kind of getting out of it and we get to continue on with the good.
Yes.
And drop out the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 3 months would have been a lot better than a year and a half, but it's always good to sort of stress test the status quo, all kidding aside. And obviously what happened is very serious, but, I mean, for us as an organization, I think the fact that, so those of people listening that know me know that every meeting is in person. Every staff member should be in the office as much as possible. I mean, I was literally all the way on the other side of that. So this gave some interesting perspective about how important is that. And I think, I mean, it'll all shake out right in the end, but I think the truth is not as important as I thought it was, but more important than others think. Because I agree with you. I think I was actually talking to another guy, Gordon, on a previous episode of the podcast. And he was like, hey, we don't have any trouble getting our work done, right? They're not really a sales organization. They're like big movie companies. So he's like, we're able to keep making stuff and we're able to get our work done. He goes, the hardest thing for me is 6, 12, 18 months from now, when I hire new employees, it's going to take me a lot longer to indoctrinate them into the culture. Because, I mean, if you think about like the way that, the way we studied foreign language, right? You got like the immersion method, which is like you just stick somebody in a room where no one else speaks the same language, or the sort of slow learned method. So I think from a corporate culture standpoint, it's important.
Tom, I have a great example. Just last night, I was with my stepsister, and she's just out of college, right? And first job out of college, and she's struggling. I go over her house, and she's living there, and it's basically that's her office. That's her house. She hasn't met anybody in person from her company, right?
Yeah.
And she's trying to understand, like, hey, are the pressures that the company's putting on us, are they normal? Are they not normal? All things that, like, at the Padres, like, they're cracking the whip. You got to make 100 phone calls a day, but we could talk about it over beers with the coworkers afterwards, right? And kind of like, share best practices and whatnot. And that's coming into a culture, like coming into a company when you're not like in the culture and physically is tough. And so that is something, that one part that I'm really glad for all the young people out there, especially, or people that are starting new jobs, that we're through, because I think we're in such a better environment now to go ahead and onboard into a company and be successful.
Yeah. And so culture, and then, to kind of like expand on that, we have a lot of engineers that work at DZ Solutions. It's a super important part of our differentiator. Like, it's an important part of why people hire us versus our competition, or versus buying products direct, right? Because we know a lot about stuff. And for me, the knowledge transfer has, again, always been done by the immersion method. What's the greatest way to take, a first or second year engineer and accelerate his progress to the knowledge of a 5-year engineer, put him in the trenches with a 10-year engineer, right? Because that person with 10 years of experience, A, is going to be happy to share it, but B, is going to have limited patience, right? You got to bring yourself up to speed. But trying to accomplish that remotely when there isn't this sort of intimate connection of being in the same room with somebody, it's tough. It's not impossible, but I think it's tough.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
So, all right. So, what do you think? Again, looking into your crystal ball, Buck, what do you think? Moving forward, as we all. So, I don't know. There's like if you use the investment banks as an example, one of them basically said everybody's back full time, right? Another investment bank, I don't think they said nobody has to come in, but they're a lot closer to all remote. So long term, what do you think, corporate culture looks like 2 or 3 years from now? How does it all shake out?
Yeah. So I guess the world that I live in, what Dell did is that they polled everybody in our company. So 100,000 plus employees, right? Asked them, what would you like the world to be like coming out of this?
Oh, okay,
And
cool.
the response back was that overwhelmingly people would prefer to work 2 days, about 2 days, give or take, right, in the office a week, and then the rest remote. So it's just like we're seeing a hybrid cloud world. I think it's going to be a hybrid working world. The interesting thing that I'm trying to figure out is those 2 days that you're working in the office, like, is that the same 2 days that everybody else is working in the office? Because that's where you got the office culture from, right? That's where you got
Right.
that, it's not working in a physical office that's making you better. It's,
Yeah.
to your point, it's the immersion portion of it.
Being there with your colleagues. Yeah.
Being there with your colleagues. So what's interesting about that I'm looking to, see through my crystal ball, has been a little hazy on this, is what do you do with corporate real estate at that time then? Because
Yeah.
if everybody's still coming in the office on the same 2 days, then you still have to have the same amount of office space.
Yeah.
So that's, a lot of the analysts said people are going to have less office space, but if, I'm just looking to see how that portion of it plays out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how Dell does it. I've been to a lot of EMC offices. I mean, all over the country, right? And not all over the world, but all over the country for sure. And I've been in everything from that, epic office they have at Penn Plaza, you know what I mean, to
Yeah.
some of the various iterations of the Orange County offices, Arizona, et cetera, El Segundo, where, they're such a big company and you would get there and you're like, that's it? This is the office? Like, what happened, But they used it like an oversubscription model. So I wonder if you just get more, because think about, you've been to that Penn Plaza office, the EMC office back in the day, right?
Yep. Yep.
You get up there, it's the biggest office I've ever seen in my life, and there's never anywhere to sit, right? So, I think part of it is if you think about the web hosting model, you just adjust, because if they had enough space for 100% of the Eastern Seaboard team in that Manhattan office, they'd have to have that whole building, right? So I think they just do a good job of, like, you want to make sure you have just a little bit less than the demand.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have another theory though, so Dell had no offices in Southern California. EMC had 4 or 5 when the acquisition happened, right? And through the COVID, we've lost a couple offices, but we still do have some offices. But what I've realized is that having offices sometimes does hinder our ability to go out and interact with the channel sometimes.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a bad thing from my point of view that if we did have less offices, we could have Tammy Planbeck's Monday morning team meeting at the DZ office, right? And what a good way to get our teams together, talking about things, right? Talking about customers, how we can help the market, right? If we're forced to do a little bit more of that because of the lack of offices from Dell, I think that could be a good outcome through all this.
Yeah, in the early days of DZ, we had some Bay Area based vendors that they were just like software companies out of the Bay Area. So they had no offices anywhere, not even, they had some corporate office, but that was great because they would travel in to go meet with clients and they'd have to figure out where to set up. And, they've got the like Regis shared space thing. And I was like, or you could come to our place and, we order lunch and we have a nice espresso machine and our chairs are more comfortable. And they were all about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get people to slide through. So, Yeah, we downsized our office significantly because we had a big office space. The lease was up, and I was like, okay, until all this, like, I'm not going to sign a 5-year extension until I know what the world looks like. So we're actually in a smaller space. We just got some fully vaccinated members of the sales team together, like within the last week. And I was personally, as a business owner, was kind of excited because I was like worried there wasn't going to be enough parking, and I'm like, this is the
Yeah.
problem that I want to have.
Yeah. So what's your
Um,
team telling, what's your company telling you, Tom? Or how many days you think, or what's it look like from your perspective?
I've got to get better the overwhelming feedback for sure is nobody wants to go back to working in an office 5 days a week. Now, if I can just like put an asterisk next to that, I hire and train and try to retain the very best people I can. And the job market, as you know, has been on fire for the last 15 years. So as myself and my staff have started, we're having kids and we need more real estate, et cetera, you know, everybody living within a couple miles of the office is just not realistic based on, these people have lives, they have families, right? And they need to make sure they're close to their spouse's job or they want to have this. So we've become more spread out. So a lot of that is it's literally just the windshield time. It's not that they don't like the office culture. It's that, if you spend an hour and a half every day driving to and from work for a total of whatever that is, 7.5 hours a week, and you multiply that by 52 and 350 hours a year behind the dashboard of your car. And the reason is my job. Makes you a little unhappy, about that whole thing. So I think a lot of it isn't that people don't love being in the office because our workplace culture is so cool, but just the commute is brutal. So trying to figure that out. I'd like to have a space big enough that everyone could be there at the same time. Right now, in order to do that, we'd have to go on the roof, which I did make into a deck. So it's like
Oh,
totally possible, right?
yeah.
And there's not much range, so most days it would be possible. But
Even if it's not everyone having their own desk, I don't think everyone needs their own cubicle or own desk, because
yeah,
even if it's just sitting around a conference room,
yep,
right? Like the
agreed.
whole reason you're there is, but to your, I mean, you've said it beautifully, right? The immersion. And
Yep.
so forcing everyone, like even before COVID, right? The idea of, I think Google started that trend, right? Where like you're sitting and hotel desking it. EMC
Yeah,
was about a hotel desk. I could not put like pictures up in the EMC office. They wanted it a hotel desk so that
yep,
you got to get to know everybody. You didn't come there, sit the same spot every day, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a combination of window offices and flexible workspace. And then other than accounting, because it's kind of mean to move accounting, you gotta,
Yeah. Yeah.
they gotta have their stuff. You gotta don't move accounting unless you want problems. I mean, that's my experience anyway, right? You want the checks to go out on time, you don't want them bothering you. But other than that, no workspace was uh truly belonged to somebody. And by that I mean maybe we had some managers in the Windows office, but we shuffle that up every once in a while. And like when the accounting firm that comes by and audits our financials every year, like I would give them my office and which would force me to sit out in this flexible workspace with the engineering staff, which was like
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have loved that all the time, but it was a fun experience and I got to see what those folks were working on and vice versa.
Yeah. I'm sure they
Um,
loved it. Absolutely.
yeah, so hopefully, but to answer your question, all I know for sure is that people don't want to be back in the office full time, and I've kind of acknowledged that. And so I've promised everybody that I'm gonna get more feedback from them before even designing the new flexible work policy. The policy right now is you don't ever have to come in unless a customer requires you to do so. Because of course
Yeah.
our real management team is our customers, right? We have to do whatever
Well
they want.
said.
Um,
Well said. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I envision 2 to 3 days, and it sounds like that's what Dell's feedback was. 100,000 is a great sample size,
Yeah.
but not 100% sure yet. I live, of course, I live right up the street from the office. So one of the things I was thinking was, hey, you know, not to get too wrapped around the policy in the context of if it is 2 or 3 days a week, but not everyone is going on the same 2 or 3 days. I can still go 5 days and it's no big deal for me because I just jump in the car and it's 5 minutes away. So
Yeah.
I'll get to see everybody anyway. Um, All right. So long term, you think 2 to whatever couple days per week, and have they given you any hint about when that's coming back?
Sorry, Tom, I had a little bit of audio. What was
Oh,
what was
no
the
problem.
question?
Has Dell given you any hint about when they want that office return to start? Obviously, with the reopening, now you can at least go out in the field. But what about the office culture?
Yeah, so no, we've to your point, it's been all about customers, right? Like the customers are our real, metrics, right? So the whole reason that
Hmm.
we've been wanting to get out and see people and do things is really to be in front of customers. And so the whole conversation within Dell right now has been, hey, now we're able to go see customers. So we haven't actually talked a lot about like, hey, what does the internal meeting structure look like?
Yep.
That's probably the next stage, but that's a good. I actually hadn't even thought much about that. I was more,
Yeah.
I was on the customer side, the partner side, um, but yeah, we'll, I guess not sure what the future holds there. I would say like at the very least, probably business reviews. I think that you
Yeah.
got to have business reviews in person, in my opinion. That's a great time to get together, look back, either celebrate, what you did, look at what you can improve, and then really come together. Some of the best times I've ever had, some of the best days of learning and growing, personally and professionally have been during those business reviews. So at the very least, business reviews. So once a quarter, doing something like that. But I'd prefer to see something where it's you have the weekly team meeting instead of doing it over
Yeah.
Zoom. Have that weekly team meeting in person.
That is where we plan to start, is that, I mean, we're not a huge company, but that there's a department meeting once per week that's in person, right?
Yeah.
Sales, marketing, accounting, etc.
Just to make sure everyone you're paying their salary for is still alive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that my opinion is, if it's just back and forth, email is fine. But when you've got to talk through something that's uncomfortable, or where people are activated or opinionated, or, people aren't on the same page, I find the best way to keep everyone honest, including myself, is to try to hash it out in person. Because if you're in person, you got to bring 100% of your focus, and
Yeah.
you're less likely to. I mean, this is something I've definitely learned a lot about personally over the last 20 years. But just don't send that email. Just wait till you see
Yeah.
the person.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I've definitely never said, "Man, I'm glad I hit send on that email before I really thought about what I was doing." Only the opposite, right? So.
Yeah. I have some of those emails saved in my draft box, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly. You leave them there for a while, eventually you delete them. Right.
Yeah. I'm
But
gonna
you
cool
know that they're
down, and if I
there.
still feel like sending it tomorrow, it's already written.
Yeah.
I can send it then, and then
That's
to your
right.
point, like, you cool off, it's a little bit different. You have a different opinion. And to your point, I think, picking up the phone's the second best thing, but
Yes.
so much communication is nonverbal as well. And
I
so
agree.
the being in person, you can't replace that. And to your point, like things really get done. Some of the best leaders that I've learned from have been very big on this, and it sounds like this is important to you too, is that, you really grow, you really evolve when you're having the tough conversations,
Yeah,
and
of
those
course.
tough conversations are way better to have in person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like exercise, right? If it doesn't hurt a little bit, then you're probably not getting any stronger. So,
Yeah, you're just doing the same thing you've always done, right? You're used to
yeah.
that. Like you
Yeah.
gotta change,
Push the
right? And
limits a
change is
little
a
bit.
little uncomfortable.
Yeah. All right. So last but not least, other than the work that we do together, what technology trend are you most excited about? Cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence? Are you a self-driving car guy? What are you most excited about that's kind of bleeding edge or coming out soon?
Yeah. So I like I like driving, so I would not say, there's something therapeutic about driving
Hmm.
and being in control. I just a little fun fact. I got my driver's license on the day of my 16th birthday. That's my parents asked me, "What do you want to do on your 16th birthday?" I was like, "I want to go to the DMV
Take
and
my
take the
driving
driver's
test.
test." Right? That was how much I wanted to drive. So I love the act of driving. So it wouldn't be self-driving cars. Um, you know, I like learning a lot about, like, I guess if the question's in the frame of just a, not from a human progress standpoint, but just for fun, right?
Uh-huh.
What do I find intriguing? I like the idea of AI or high performance compute type technologies that can really help us understand where we came from as a human race, right?
Mhm.
And kind of like just learn more about us, right? Where what was it like 200 years ago? What was it like 300 years ago? What was it like 2,000 years ago? And then what do our models say it's going to be like in 2,000 years? Or
Yeah.
I just think that's such a cool topic, and I'm so interested in those types of things. And it seems like the more technology we get, the more we're able to find things out that we previously weren't, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, if you think about the whole human genome thing, first started hearing about sequencing genomes 20 years ago, and I was like, why does this matter? And like, when are we going to be able to actually apply this? And 20 years later, it was the cornerstone of 2 of the 4 coronavirus vaccines, right? Super, super, super important stuff. But
exactly.
now,
Yeah.
hopefully, we can learn about more fun topics than how to cure disease. But it is an important topic for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's in everything and everything we do. So like the more we understand ourselves, the better, we can continue to progress. And I know Michael Dell's a, big fan of driving human progress through technology.
mhm.
And if we don't have the right information about, who we are, then, it's hard to drive human progress in the right direction.
Yeah,
And so, the whole idea is like, let's leverage technology to drive it in the right direction. And I think
yeah,
more we know about ourselves, the more we're going to be able to do that.
yeah. I think what is the expression? Like, if you don't know where you're coming from, there's no way you're going to be able to figure out where you're going. Something along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
And then what's the plan this weekend? You've got an anniversary. You've obviously got some Father's Day stuff. Lay it out for
Yeah.
us. What are you doing?
Yeah. So this is like the Super Bowl around my house, right? You got anniversary and Father's Day in the same weekend. And so anniversary day is going to be on Saturday. It's actually on Monday, so we're getting a kind of a dual celebration. So on Saturday we're going to do a brunch and really just make sure that the main thing is we were going to do a staycation, but the price of hotels went way up. So we've
Yeah.
committed to each other that no one's doing any chores this weekend.
Okay.
None whatsoever. It's not an option. So we're gonna do brunch. We're gonna go out, probably walk around Carlsbad Village on Saturday, and then on Sunday we're doing a beach day for Father's Day. So Father's Day was my choice, right? And grabbing a couple buddies who also are our recent dads, and we're gonna go down to Seaside Beach, which is one of Rob Machado's, for the surfing fans out there, one of Rob Machado's surf breaks. It's got a great surf break right on the beach, and the best part about it for dads out there that are used to going to the beach, that you can drive. The parking lot and the beach are like complementary to each other. And so you don't have to go down any stairs. So when you're lugging coolers or
Right.
you're lugging canopies or barbecues from the car to the beach, it's a very simple process.
Yeah.
So I was like, babe, this is the beach that I want to go to. And we were originally going to order pizza, and one of my buddies that just said, "Hey, Buck, I want to go." It's like, I'm bringing a barbecue, and to make it even better, than my dad just sent me for my Father's Day, sent me a bunch of Omaha burgers and Omaha steaks. So I'll be bringing the meat to cook. He'll be cooking, and we'll have a good old time.
That
Yeah,
sounds great. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
What about so Tom? What about you? Any fun plans for the weekend?
What am I doing this weekend? Not much. My spouse is going to be gone next weekend, so we're going to try to get a few things done in the interim. The weather is going to be super warm, and probably I've got a young golden retriever that needs a lot of exercise, so I think a long walk this weekend is in our future. So last
Yeah,
weekend I did a big like barbecue cook, and we had some people over. So we're gonna keep it small this weekend.
yeah. So if you have
So
a young golden retriever, you're probably you probably are pretty active. I figured that out.
yeah,
Dog people.
yeah,
Once I got my dog, the difference in lifestyle before and after was night and day.
yeah. Because the minimum you're putting in 5 miles a day, spread out over 3 or 4 walks, especially when you're working from home. And then if she really has a lot of energy, the only way to get her to like calm down is to go out and run a few miles with her.
Yeah. And you
She's
get to
not.
know all your neighbors.
Yeah,
I
actually.
became super social in my neighborhood once I got
Yeah,
my dog Liberty Bell. Like I got to know everybody. They knew me. It was like, and even if I didn't always remember their names, they remembered my dog's name and I
every
remembered their
time.
dog's name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I knew like 2 of the people on this block, and I now know like 6, partly for that reason. And then,
There you go. There you go.
yeah, because
Awesome.
especially if you got a friendly dog, everybody wants to stop and check in.
Yeah,
So
retrievers are among the friendliest, right? So I'm
yeah,
sure you have no
yeah, she
problems
loves
there.
everybody, man. She's a lover, not a fighter. The
Awesome.
only time she barks is that someone's at the door, and I think it's just because she wants them to come in, so she can hang out. So.
That's awesome.
Well, Buck, listen, I really appreciate you giving me some of your time on a Friday to do this. Thank you very much. Happy anniversary, 7 years, right, to you.
Yep,
And
7 years. Yep.
happy Father's Day in advance. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let me know how how the burgers your dad sent you end up on that grill, man. That sounds great.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I appreciate, the partnership with DZ Solutions, everything you guys do, all the investments you make back in being able to support our joint customers in the best way possible. So thank you guys. And yeah, happy Father's Day as
Yeah,
well.
you too, Buck. All right, everybody. This is Tom Gilsonen, your old friend, signing off. Everybody have a great weekend. See you, Buck.
Bye.